They say every day that you make above the ground is a blessing. Do you know why? Because we live in a world where we are surrounded by so much information. I'm talking about free information that helps us become the people we want to be in future. And as always, I'm your host, Libo Chibase, and welcome to another episode of Complacency Learning. In this show, what we do is we actually get people from different career fields. I'm talking about the legends. I'm talking about people who have been in the field long enough to understand what goes on and long enough to be able to give advices. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the information that actually helps you help your child make informed career decisions. And in doing so, we believe that we are building a generation full of brilliant ideas, a generation that is here to change the world for better. And ladies and gentlemen, in today's episode, we are joined by an interesting character. I'm talking about an interesting individual that I've gotten an opportunity to actually attend the same class with. I'm talking about Varsity Days. That was until he moved on to something else. This individual has learned a lot. Like, I mean, most of the knowledge that he has and most of the skills that he has acquired were through self-taught. And I'm sure you're wondering now, how did he do it? Like, if you're wondering how he does it, ladies and gentlemen, this is the right channel for you. Just sit tight and enjoy as he shares with us the kind of resources that is used and the kind of people that he has kept in his circle. Ladies and gentlemen, I also strongly suggest that you go get some popcorns and so you can sit and watch till the end. And I promise you, you are going to learn as much as I'm going to. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please sit tight and enjoy the show. Hi, Mulalo. Welcome to another episode of Complacency Learning. It's an honor to have you on today's episode. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thanks. And yourself?
No, they say every day that you make it above the ground is a blessing. So I'm happy to be receiving those blessings, you know. So yeah, so like I said, it's so good to have you. So before we actually start with the first question, can I just ask you to introduce yourself? Who is Mulalo and what does he do?
Well, my name is Mulalo Mushaisano. In terms of what I do, it's a variety of things. I'm a graphic designer. I'm an instructional designer. I'm an IT specialist. I'm technology specialist. I'm currently completing my Master of Science, so my MSc in Technology and Innovation Management. So I'll be done in about 3 months with that. Yeah, I think in general, I'm just, a lifelong learner, very passionate about self-development. I've done a lot of things and I continue to do many things for as long as, I am alive and awake. So that's just myself, that's just myself in a few lines, yes.
That's quite a great profile that you have here. Like the things that you're doing are amazing. I mean, you've also like inspired me to do the things I never thought I could do. You know, like seeing your work, what you used to do in varsity, right? So to those who don't know us, like we went to the same varsity together. So yeah, you being too much involved in technology, you made me believe that you know what, you don't need all these big computers to actually do cool stuff, you know, like the posters, the website and stuff like that. That's why I do everything myself. And speaking of that, right, so before you begin with your career, obviously there's things that you didn't know about that you only discovered once you were in the career, right? So if I may ask you, what is the one thing that you wish you had known before you began with your career?
Well, I think it's a common issue amongst a lot of us, especially when we're still in high school or grade 11, grade 12. I just knew that I was very good with computers and technology, and that's where my interest lied. So I just assumed that when I'm done with school, I'll just study IT. But I didn't know at the time that IT comprises of a lot of things. For example, you can find that in university, there's about 6 to 7 different types of IT. There's going to be informatics, there's going to be computer science, there's going to be information science, software engineering, all those things. So I was not prepared, and hence I didn't have all the information because for me, IT was just like a subject as we had in high school. If I said that I'm studying or got a module or subject, yeah, let's say technology, then I just feel that that's how it's going to be, But that's not necessarily what happened. So I ended up in university not very prepared. I didn't know, I was very confused to the point where I wanted to like take a gap year. But then at the time, my parents wouldn't allow me. So I ended up just studying something else in the interim. And only after I've spent like a year or two doing my own research, that set me back a few years. 1 or 2 years is a very long time. So if I had been adequately prepared, I feel like, yeah, I would have even accomplished even more by now. So I think that's the main mistake that I made in terms of my career advancement and just knowing from the get-go what I was going to do.
So no, that's actually well, great that you're sharing that with us. I mean, it's actually gonna also help those that are still in high school. They're also gonna actually maybe take it seriously, especially when teachers tell them about all these careers, the subjects they need and stuff, right? So in becoming the person that you are today with such a great profile, like I've said before, right? So obviously at some point you had to fail, and you know what they say about failure, right? You can let it describe you, or you can use it as a lesson. So looking at you where you are today, I can say that you actually used it as a lesson, right? So if I may ask, what was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, well, that also goes back to high school, and in connection to what I just said in the previous question and everything. So I always knew at an early age, from as far as grade five, that I was going to study something to do with computers. And by the time that I got to high school, I was at the top of my grade, for at least 3 years. In metric, for example, in grade 12, I was the top of my grade. In terms of that, I got a distinction, for computer-based technology. You
Wow,
know,
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah. But then, yeah. So I think that was my very first certificate. You know, yeah, my first certificate. I mean, I currently have about more than 12, excluding my degrees. But
That's
in
amazing
the
and
process
inspiring.
of, yeah,
Mm,
no, thanks. I mean,
mm,
but as great as that sounds,
mm,
um, I think by the fact or by virtue of me knowing that I was
mm,
always going to get into computers and technology, I neglected
mm,
other subjects.
mm,
I knew that I'm going to pass anyway, whether I study or not. So
mm,
I only wanted
mm,
to excel
mm,
in the computer subject. In every
mm,
other one, I was just, I was complacent in terms of that. I knew that, look, I'm not going to fail if I don't study. I'll pass.
mm,
I'm going to get my 50%. I'm going to get my 60%. But
mm,
then evidently that made my APS take a very big dip. You know,
mm,
um, so even though I had my distinctions in the subjects that I wanted, um, I remember my teacher came up to me on the day that I got awarded for best performance in computers. And my English teacher came up to me to say that, what, I'm happy for you, but I'm very disappointed because I always thought that you'd also get this award for English, you know.
mm, mm,
So for me, that was a very bittersweet feeling because even though I didn't get a distinction for English, I mean, I got like, I think about 70% without even studying, you know. So she was upset that like I didn't get an 80 or an 85 or a 90 because then I would have been top of my grade as well. So just me, just not seeing the bigger picture, and not knowing how the APS thing worked, I shot myself in the foot. You know, I it ended up taking me 6 years to finish a 3-year degree. You know, because I had to fix that mistake when I got to university. I had to do way more that I could have avoided if I had just studied in metric to get my APS to allow me to do what I wanted to do immediately.
mm, mm,
But because I didn't do that, it ended up taking me 2, 3 more extra years to just prove myself enough to get my first degree. So that was,
mm,
I think, my biggest failure because even
mm,
though it happened in one year, like many years
mm,
ago, I think I was 2008 or so, it still affects me until today. Luckily, from learning uh, the consequences of that mistake, I don't do such mistakes anymore.
mm, mm, mm. I think, Well, I remember like you started at what you call this University of Pretoria there, where you did 2 years in education, and then after you left, right? But so going back to the teacher, your teacher, I think she saw like a very great potential in you. I mean, I'm a teacher, and that's what I tell my students, because usually I would tell them that I'm not saying that this mark is bad. I'm just saying that me believing in you as much as I do, that's me saying that, you know what, I believe that you can do better. You know what I'm saying? That you just need to at least go an extra mile, because they say barriers is not of ideas, right? I mean, it's of things. Like, I mean, if something fails, you can still come up with another idea and then try and make it
Definitely,
work, or
yeah.
just emphasize more on the one that you currently implementing, right? So to those that are listening and would like to be what you call this, go for the same career as the one that you're in, including myself. I'm actually doing the IT now, right? So what,
Oh, that's great, yeah.
awesome, thank you. And so what advice can you give to us? Like, I mean, what is it that we need to look out for, and all those other things that you find more, you know, of an advice to share with people?
I think do the research, do the research. I mentioned that there's various IT degrees, technology degrees. I mean,
Mm,
I came from IT,
mm,
to technology and innovation. I
mm,
never thought I'd
mm,
end up there. I just thought that I'd end up with an IT degree, but right now I've ended up, with an MSc, for example. So
mm,
if I had done the information, then my path would have been clearer from a very early stage, you know. But my path only revealed itself through learning things that I could have learned long ago, and I learned them late. So I'd say that, look, if you want to study technology or science or IT, for example, I can only give you IT examples because that's my background. But
mm,
go to those career fairs, go to the universities on open days and get those brochures. There's literally a brochure that just shows you all the different kind of IT, for example. You can't just say that I want to be an IT professional. I mean, if you just go to university, and everything's actually online now. So even if you go to,
mm,
let's say, the
mm,
VET University website or UP or UJ,
mm,
you just go and
mm,
select the faculty, then you choose,
mm,
okay, I want to study information technology, so it takes you to the School of IT, and after that you see all those specialization areas.
mm,
So from then on, then at least you know exactly what you're trying to get to in terms of
mm,
what part of IT or what area. And after
mm,
you've done that, that's when you can actually just go online and then start seeing career paths that like
mm,
link up to what you want to study. So after that,
mm,
and you've identified it and you know what you're looking towards, then
mm,
immediately you can just start go on Google, search for, okay, what can
mm,
I do in this kind of degree? You know, read up on those jobs opportunities, read up on the career advancement opportunities for that. And then if you feel
mm,
that, okay, this degree is going to offer me opportunities in this industry or it's going to allow me to do this in my career, then you
mm,
know now that, okay, at the end when I've graduated, I know that I'm
mm,
going to be, a
mm,
software engineer. I know
mm,
that I'm going to be, let's say, an an IT support specialist, or I know that I'm going to be a programmer, I'm going to make games, or I'm going to
mm,
make information systems for banks
mm,
and things like that. Then at least you've already mapped out your own path. I'm not saying obstacles won't come up if you do that. They will, but at
mm,
least now you already have your eyes fixed on like the end goal.
mm, mm, mm. No, I definitely agree with you on that one. Right, which brings me to this point. They say, as we know, that the world is ever changing, and one way to keep up with it is through learning. I mean, like now you said that the only thing that you can do also, to avoid falling on the same traps that you fell into, you need to do some research, you need to learn, right? So in becoming the person you are today, obviously you had to learn, you had to go through some serious learning. And if I may ask
Mhm.
you, right, so for you to learn, you actually had to go through different resources. And if I may ask you now, what are the resources that have best helped you become the person that you are today?
I think in 2021, it's
Mm,
definitely the internet. It's
mhm,
been like that
mm,
since I was in high school. It's always been the
mm,
internet. There's so
mm,
many things already
mm,
came out of that. YouTube, came out
mm,
of that.
mm,
LinkedIn Learning came out of that.
mm,
Google Academy, IBM, and all those things. Those are all things that are on the internet, and most of them are free resources. So for me, it was the internet. I mentioned before when we began that I do graphic design and instructional design. I also do user interface design. User experience design. Those are all things that I taught myself. I'm a self-taught designer, and I've taught myself all those skills and competencies from YouTube. Nowhere else. YouTube. I'd go on YouTube and just search. Okay, I want a tutorial about how to design a magazine. I want a tutorial about how to design a logo, things like that. Then I'll go and watch the video, and then sit down on my computer and practice it. Until I know it. And that was a process that took me about. I think I've been in that industry now for like I think about 9 to 10 years. You know, and that's information that I didn't learn from a textbook. I'm very grateful for all the information and knowledge that I've acquired through formal education, tertiary education. But for me, going on the internet, by myself, having that intrinsic motivation to just go and look at those things myself, it never took me away from my passion about it. That look, as people, we've got more than one talent. We've got I've got more than one thing that we're passionate about. So it never took me away or distracted me from what I was trying to do when it came to IT. Instead, it complemented what I was already doing. I built on what I'd already learned. So for me, look, this is like YouTube is not paying me to say this. It's just the honest truth. I learned um, design from YouTube, and if I can tell you now, most of my income right now it comes from graphic design, which was self-taught. My degrees helped me to get into the industry and to get to job interviews and to get into all these opportunities. But like the skill sets that I equip myself with are the ones that I actually use on a day-to-day basis in those jobs. you know. So I'm not saying be distracted, okay, or do this or do that. Like you could be an engineer who's a DJ on the weekend, side hustle. You go there, you perform, you go back home with like 7,000, for example. That's extra money, and then you still get your salary, at the end of the month from your formal job. So that's one thing that I've learned, and I've been very appreciative of when it comes to like self-learning and being committed to like continuous development and learning. So for me, look, everything starts with Google. If you go to YouTube and you don't find what you're looking for specifically, just Google it. I don't want to say all information is free, but if I was to speak about myself, the information that I learned from was free. The only thing that I paid for were degrees, you know. But in terms of everything else that I know, it was readily and freely available on the internet. You can get magazines for free. You can get tutorials for free. You can do online courses for free. You can do all these short tutorial videos for free. So for me, it just so happens that coincidentally, I'm an IT professional, but you don't have to be that in order to find information for free on the internet.
I have to say that I'm really amazed by everything that you're sharing with us. I mean, there's a whole lot to learn from you. I mean, it's like I said before, it's an honor to have you on today's episode. Hey, so like also to also support what you were saying. All these things that I'm doing for the company, which is like the website, all these podcasts, you know, everything, the flyers that I've designed, the business cards, it's all because of YouTube. It's all because of consulting the internet, getting different, getting information from different sources. Information, like you said, it's free, right? So why not get that information for free? Because some people, they come up with excuses that I never had a chance to go to varsity and stuff like that, forgetting that you can also learn this way that you've just mentioned, right? So there's also like, if you feel like data is expensive, there's people are paying those, for entertainment. Instead of paying for entertainment, you can get yourself like a Wi-Fi. You can even get it for less than 500, and then you just, what you call this, use it to educate yourself. So now,
Yeah,
speaking of,
yeah.
speaking of
No, I was
resources,
saying,
I know.
in terms of data, in terms of data, data is expensive, but I've noticed that almost all of the networks now, they do give you free access to educational sites, some of them, especially now in this COVID times and everything. I know some networks that sell you data that expires at the end of the day, and that data is so cheap. So, if you're to get that daily data, for example, you can easily complete an online course in one day. Obviously determines on your workload or your schedule and everything. But apart from that, I've not been to a mall where there's not at least one store that gives away free Wi-Fi. Go to a coffee shop, go to Starbucks, buy yourself a coffee, and then sit there, treat your employers you want to sit there and use their Wi-Fi. You have to sit all day. Just go there long enough to either study what you're trying to study for that day, or to download the content that you can watch later when you go home. There are a lot of places that offer free Wi-Fi, quite a lot of places. I mean, like especially even if you're in university, they give you probably unlimited data. When you're on campus, why don't you use that now to download the information? But when you get home and you don't have internet, then you know that you already have this thing saved on your computer. Those are some of the things that I used to do before I had a permanent internet or Wi-Fi at home. So I'm talking about things that I've had to do in order to get information with all the restrictions that are already there, particularly data prices. So there are many ways, to go around that. It's just that obviously if you're going to lean towards the whole ignorant listing, then you're going to miss out on all those opportunities.
And also, here in Gauteng, you can use these free Wi-Fi's. They even give you like about a gig. It's a lot, like you can get as much information as possible, right? So now, also speaking of the resources, I believe that a lot of us, we do have people that we look up to that serve us as the resources that we need to actually grow and develop, right? So if I may ask you, I know this question is not that proper to ask, but I just want to ask, who are the people that have influenced you the most?
Okay. Yeah. You are right. It's a very tricky question because myself, I collect mentors for fun. I connect with people so easily so that I'll bump into you and we'll have one conversation, and then I'm like, okay, this is another mentor that I'm taking. I'm taking this phone number, taking this email address. So for me, it's way too many to like mention in my name because I don't want to say that this is number one, this is number two, this is number three. There's over 15 of them. But I can tell you that it's always people that have been. It's my mentors are normal people that are either at a place where I want to be, right now, or they build me up, like personally. They inspire me or do this and that. But it's always people that I don't want to say above me, but they are further in their journey, a journey that is related to the journey that I'm on. So, for example, in terms of studying, one of my mentors is a professor. He's actually a deputy dean at a university.
Wow.
In terms of IT, one of my mentors there has been IT director at like 2 or 3 different banks and 2 universities. IT director. Because I like IT, so that's what I'm trying to get to one day. One of my mentors is heralded as like a champion of innovation at his institution. And like I just said, I'm studying innovation as well. So I noticed that I'm like, okay, you know what? I can learn something from each one of you. That's why I cannot say that okay, from top 3 there is no such thing as top 2 when it comes to mentors. You pick up what you need from different ones at different times, in different periods in your life and your journey. So for me, it's just that the point that I'm trying to make is that my mentors, they are related to the journey that I'm on. So like I said, I like to study. So why not shadow someone who's studied enough to be a professor, or to become a dean or a faculty. When it comes to me being an IT specialist, why not shadow someone that has been an IT director at banks and universities, things like that. When it comes to innovation, why wouldn't I shadow somebody, that is known for that, that is in newspapers about the innovation projects and initiatives. Why would I do that? People that are being invited to like international conferences, every single year because of their innovations. So it's always like I think that's my criteria for mentors and picking them is that look, I can even identify what I could possibly learn from you, and because of that, you know, I'm going to use your journey as a blueprint, for my own efforts and everything, you know. So yeah.
I have to say that my brains are like they're smiling from ear to ear. I know they don't have ears, but from the information that we're receiving today, I mean, it's such a like an inspiring information. It's like, I mean, this is the kind of information that people need out there. Do you get what I'm saying? People need to hear this. They need to actually, start moving forward, instead of staying in the same place. So, but from you, what you're sharing with us, like I have to say, like I'm really so thankful here. It's really amazing. Right. And also now, when you
Okay.
look at different careers, right, people would say
Mm,
different things about them, right? Some of them are false, some of them are true, right? So, for example, they say
mm,
that if you need to do public speaking, you need to be an extrovert or something like that, right? So they say
mm,
in education, like I mean, they would say that teachers they don't work as many hours compared to other professions, of which I believe is false.
mm.
Because I mean, there's that admin that teachers do, like preparing for the lesson, marking the scripts, and all that, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
if,
Yeah.
if I may ask you, what is the one common myth that you would like to expose the falseness of? I mean, in terms of looking at your career.
Well, when it comes to technology, I mean, not just IT, you know,
Mhm,
science, technology, and innovation, for example, you tell them that you're in that industry field, and already, first of all, you're either a nerd or you're a geek, those terms. And with those terms
mhm,
comes this misconception that you communicate with computers better than you do with people. You are socially awkward. You can't connect
mhm,
with people.
mhm,
You hardly ever have any relationships. When it comes to a societal view, you can't maintain
mhm,
relationships, things like that. You're not very good at communicating. Being articulate and all that. All you know is code. You sit at home the whole day playing video games. You're on your PlayStation. You're on your Xbox. Whatever. It's things like that. Also, we just mentioned communication, like presentation skills, things like that. And for me, it's very easy for me to debunk those myths because, like, I've literally done everything that um, they thought that my disposition doesn't allow. I've done all of that. The way that I easily pick up mentors. The way that I've been involved in community projects. The way that I've been presenting at exhibitions in high schools. You know, um, the way that like I've got certificates for leadership, and things like that. You can't get all of that if you're like confined in this little imaginary box that just tries to limit you in terms of um, you know people's assumptions. So you can do all of that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an extrovert. You know, I'd just say that I'm an extroverted introvert. So
mhm,
it
mhm,
doesn't like I link up with people all the time. I go out to
mhm,
events.
mhm,
I go out there and I do networking. I do all of that. And I've got an Xbox. I don't play it every day. I probably play it twice a month. It would be easy to be sitting down playing games all day. I think one of the most common ones. The fact that you are inclined, to interact better with technology than you are with people. Just that whole thing that you are socially awkward just because you're a coder, you're a programmer, or in IT. Like, I mean, for example, if I have to take it back to myself, being an IT professional and being a creative, a designer like myself, those are polar opposites. You know, you cannot do design if you don't interact with the world around you. you know where do you draw inspiration from? you know um where do you get your ideas from? What builds on
mhm,
your passion? Looking at a computer all day cannot do that. you know
mhm,
Sometimes if I feel that like I am not inspired enough or I can't start the project, what do? I go outside and I take a walk.
mhm,
I
mhm,
go visit a friend. Do like this. I get on a phone call. just be on a WhatsApp phone call for like 2 hours talking to people, and then after that, I'll come in, I'll sit at my desk, and then I'll start creating. That creativity I think just comes from my head. It actually comes out of me getting out of my head and interacting with other people, listening to their visions, listening to their ideas, listening to what makes them excited. I can't do that if I am a typical geek, for example.
Yeah, you have exposed that myth to the core. Hey, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better if I was in that field, but look at you, you actually managed to put it better in a way that I was also myself not even lost. I was able to understand it, hoping that everybody's also like able to understand it. Right. So like I said, what you're sharing with us is very resourceful, and I really appreciate it. And I believe that there's a lot that would love to connect with you. So to those that would love to connect with you, where can they do that online?
Look, I believe that the best platform for learning, for connecting, mentorship, professional development, it's LinkedIn for sure. You might be watching this when you're young, you think like you're 16, 17, what are you doing on LinkedIn? Well, you're building connections, you're building your profile. Every single thing that you achieve, you're putting it on there. That's one thing that, I've not said half of the things that I like to do in this interview. I've not mentioned half of my competencies. I've not mentioned, qualifications, all of them. I've not mentioned achievements. But every single thing that, well, what I'm saying is that you won't identify all that you can pick up from me or learn from me from one interview, but everything is on LinkedIn. So if you just go on my LinkedIn profile, if you just search for Mulalo Mushaisano, on LinkedIn, and you'll find me just there. So if there's more than one, then my bio says, I think you know my bio, right?
Yeah, it says technologist by purpose, innovator by
no, I think it's technologist by education, profession, and then creative by disposition, and innovator by purpose. So just search my name, and that's the bio. Then that's me. So just add me, and I'll accept.
Yeah, it's innovator by purpose, and then there's that other one by qualifications. But as long as they get the point, So well,
they'll get it.
Yeah. I try to actually ask the best questions possible. Right. So I believe that I might maybe have missed a question that you probably would have loved for me to ask you. So if I may ask, what is the one question that you've asked, or that you would have liked, that you would have asked yourself that I did not? Yes, English. Yes, that I did not.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned about past failures or challenges. For me, I'd be interested in, I know it's a typical interview question, like what are your weaknesses and what have you done to address them? I've been in interviews before, and that question, if you Google it, you can get a very generic answer, and whatnot. But that's for the purpose of a job opportunity. But how self-aware are you to be able to identify a weakness in yourself? Look, weaknesses are probably going to be pointed out by other people, and you take that as criticism probably. You'll feel like you're being attacked or whatnot. But in terms of self-introspection and self-awareness, would you be able to say that I've identified this weakness? And from doing that, have I been able to, make efforts to address them? Can I look back and see that I've made, positive strides from recognizing those mistakes? So it just takes you back to the whole question of it's an interview question for a reason. What are your mistakes? Or not your mistakes, what are your weaknesses, and what have you done, or what are you doing to address them?
I think that's like an amazing question, because most of us are failing because we don't know, we haven't determined our weaknesses, and sometimes we tend to deny them, and the more we deny them is the more we hold ourselves back, right? So, well, one of the questions that I love the most is this, right? So, well, learning happens every day, right? I think you can agree with me on that one, right? Be it through reading, be it through experiences, being through that, whatever you see on a daily basis, right? So, and I know that it's a process that actually takes passion and determination, and also you need to be patient at the same time, because otherwise you're just gonna give up and just say, that's it, I'm not going to continue to learn, especially when the lessons are coming in hard, because sometimes it's actually hard to actually use the failure as a lesson. But sometimes, like I said from the beginning, that we tend to let them define us, right? So if I may ask you, the word learning, what does it mean to you?
Well, without giving a textbook answer,
Mm,
I'd say
mhm,
it's just a continuous process, the
mm,
continuous process of, gathering as much knowledge as you can, getting as much information, relevant information, and it will only be relevant when you assess it across your goals, parallel
mm,
to your goals,
mm,
So yeah, just having that mindset that,
mm,
what, my brain was designed like this, so I know this is possible. I've got an infinite amount of capacity to store information, to store
mm,
knowledge, and like it always goes back to relevance, you know. It always goes back to that. I don't want to collect information or knowledge that I'm not going to use, But once I identify what I'm trying to learn, which means
mm,
what I'm trying to be able to express,
mm,
what I'm trying to be knowledgeable about, and then I will
mm,
collect that. And like I
mm,
said, it's a very it's a
mm,
continuous process. It never ends.
mm,
To give an example, I remember when I passed my matric and I saw my name in the newspaper,
mm,
and I was like happy. I was like, oh yes, I passed. And I
mm,
remember
mm,
telling my aunt that, oh,
mm.
I'm finally done with school. And she looked at me, she was like, you're never gonna be done with school. What are you talking about? And then I'm like, oh, I just spent 12 years in school, primary school, high school, I'm done. And then she laughed at me and I didn't understand. But like now in
Mm,
retrospect, she was right because,
mm,
she's got a master's, she's an educator as
mm.
well. She's got
Wow,
a master's in
wow.
education.
Mm,
My uncle has got a doctorate also in education. He's a lecturer right
mm,
now,
mm,
and then
mm,
my spouse now, I
mm,
never
mhm,
intended to get to master's level, but I've got
mm,
that intrinsic motivation that's like, you know what, this is exciting. I learn something new every single day. Like,
mm.
why would I stop?
Yeah.
Especially because
Mm,
everything is already available if you look for it.
mm,
So an
mm,
example that I always give when it comes to my business, because I've got a registered business for graphic design, and digital
mm,
marketing. So
mm,
when it comes to my business, sometimes I'll get clients that
mm,
come to me and they've got a request, and
mm,
sometimes they're asking for, and this sounds so interesting. And then
mm.
they're like, can you help? And then
Yeah.
I'll say, of course, I can do that, knowing very well
Mm,
that I can't do it, you know. But I'll accept, I say I can do it because I know
mm,
that by
mm,
the time that they
mm.
leave, in
Yeah.
a week or two, I'll be able to do that. I'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
miss out.
Yeah.
I won't miss out on this
Yeah.
opportunity. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lose this money, just
Yeah.
because I don't know. Because knowing what I know about
Mm,
where to get knowledge and
yeah.
information, the next
Yeah.
time that we have a meeting, I am going to know
Mm,
exactly what I'm
yeah.
going to do here. And that's
True.
one thing that has
True.
always like
Mm,
taken me so many
mm,
steps ahead when it comes to
mm,
graphic
mm,
design. And once I started, I was just a graphic designer, but
mm,
right now I'm a graphic designer, I'm a user experience designer, I'm an instructional designer.
mm,
Now I think when you and I met, I was still just busy making posters. I was doing
mm,
this, I was doing
mm,
that, for events. And I did that for free for about 2 years, because I was just
mm,
trying to pick up as much knowledge and experience as I
mm,
can.
mm,
But now I've gone from making posters
mm,
to
mm,
creating online courses, for
mm,
master students, for this and that.
mm,
That's what I do
mm,
now. That's my full-time job. I'm an
mm,
e-learning specialist now.
mm,
Now you're probably
mm,
confused because, okay, how did you
mm.
go from IT to
Yeah.
innovation to e-learning?
Yeah.
So basically I'm back at being an educator, exactly where I
Mm,
started.
yeah.
At that time I told myself that, like, I can't be a teacher. Like, I'm teaching courses, like 10 years later,
Yeah.
I'm
Mm,
literally an e-learning specialist. So
mm,
my
mm,
title right now, learning and design specialist. Look at how all those things came together. Digital came
Yeah.
from my technology background.
Yeah.
E-learning came from my education background.
Big background.
You know,
Incorporating the two,
specialist came, yeah,
Mm,
specialist
mm,
came from. I mean,
mm.
specialist came from my passion towards innovation. I couldn't be a
Yeah.
specialist if I was not,
Yeah.
really excited about that. So everything came together, and like
Mm,
I couldn't have anticipated that that's what's
mm,
going to happen. I never could have guessed what was about to happen. But like I said, in retrospect, I look back and I
mm,
literally see how everything has come together because
mm,
of my inclination towards studying
mm,
and just having
mm,
an understanding of
mm,
of broad fields, but being able to
mm,
specialize in one or
mm,
two or few of them. So right now, I'd
mm,
say that I've specialized. I
mm,
specialize in like two or three different
mm,
learning areas and
mm,
fields. Yeah,
mm,
I still don't know where my specialty lies.
mm,
Is it in design? Is it in
mm,
technology? Is it in
mm,
innovation? Or is it in
mm.
creativity or writing? Because I write as
Yeah.
well. So I really don't
Mm,
know. All I know is
mm,
that all of those competencies and skills
mm.
are working very well in my favor.
Mm,
Mhm.
It's actually great to hear that. Hey, I mean, like also one of the things that make me actually that help me help learners like improve on their grades is the fact that I actually encourage them to actually take challenges and use them to their advantage. Like you've mentioned here that even if something you don't know how to do it, you just say you know how to do it because that challenge you want to use it because to your advantage, like you said. I mean, at the end of 2 weeks you would have learned something. I mean, if you didn't take it, then you wouldn't have learned anything. And the more you learn is the wiser and the smarter you become, right? So, and also now that we've come to the end of today's episode, I just want to say
Mm.
thank you. I mean, we live in a world where it's like everything we're always busy. We're always busy. We don't even have time to actually, share such valuable information that you've shared with us, of which I appreciate.
Mm.
Right. So I just want to say to you, I cannot thank you enough, but honestly, I just want to say thanks to you for actually, making some time from your busy schedule to come and share with us such valuable information. And also, if I may
Yeah.
ask, is there anything that you would like to share, like something like anything that you'd like to leave us with, if I may ask? Be it like a quote, your
Uh,
favorite quote.
Look, I, I do have quotes. I cannot recall them from the top of my head.
Mhm,
There's one thing that I always used to hear from my mentors. Would always
mhm,
tell me to trust the process. And for me, that was very, very annoying. In terms of who I follow, in terms of the people that inspired me,
mhm,
it would be Gary
mhm,
V.
mhm,
Yeah, Gary V. It would be Simon Sinek and all of them. You know, and it always comes back to like keep trusting the process. But remember, a process is an ongoing thing. You know, so it means that even though you're trusting it, you're working towards it. You're working towards a goal. So even though it used to annoy me when I first heard it from people that were mentioning me trust the process, I'm like, no, I can't trust the
mhm.
process. I already went through the
Yeah.
process. I studied. I graduated. I'm doing this. I'm
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
That was my process. What process am
Mhm.
I trusting in now? Because I trusted that after I got a degree, I'd get a job immediately. It didn't happen like that, you know. But if
Yeah.
I think back, if I think back, then they were
Mm,
right,
mm,
But then
mm,
I had to figure out that trusting the
mm.
process doesn't mean that I sit down and I look at the clock and I just wait for things to fall into place.
Yeah.
Trusting the process means that I actually realize and acknowledge that there is a process and
Mm,
there are a lot of
mm,
activities and tasks that I need to do, in order to fulfill that process and get to, the promised land, if I could say.
mm,
So
mm,
yeah, I
mm,
mean, like be patient, be
mm,
patient, but be patient without being complacent,
mm, mm,
don't be too hard on yourself because I think that stifles creativity, that
mm,
drains you, that
mm,
takes so much energy away from you just beating yourself up the whole time. That's how you get burnt out because you always feel like you're not doing enough. So
mm,
when you trust the process, then you know how to break down all this work into small chunks because
mm,
you know the direction. You're not doing things by trial and error, anymore.
mm,
Because you know exactly
mm,
what you're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this thing now, and I'm looking at this meeting, and like right behind this window that I'm looking at, I've been working on an
mm,
app for the last 4 hours, designing an app
mm,
for someone. You know,
mm,
like for
mm,
me,
mm.
I wish I could show you, but hey, sorry,
Yeah.
You know, this was on
Yeah.
this app, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
literally seeing, I'm literally being part of it and seeing someone's dream come to
Mm.
life. You know,
Wow.
I'm looking at this app
Mm.
and I see that, this person told me that they want these colors. Like, I look at this and I'm like, you
Mm.
know, I never would have used these colors if I was doing this app myself. You know, I never would have
Yeah.
used this kind of effect. You know, I never would have had this
Mm.
idea, but like, I'm
Yeah.
literally sitting here bringing
Mm.
somebody's idea to life. You know,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
are, and they just know that I quoted them and I invoiced them, and now they are
Mm.
trusting my process. You know,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
trusting my
True.
process that I'm going
True.
to get it done.
True.
You know, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's just that. You know, I mean,
Mm.
get to a point where like your work speaks for
Mm.
itself. You know, get to a
Yeah.
point where people don't
Mm.
even have the audacity to ask you for a discount. You know,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
no, no, you're not gonna get a discount from me. You know,
Yeah.
I've studied
Yeah.
for this long. I've spent 12 years getting, you know, the fact that I can do
Yeah.
your project in 30
Mm.
minutes, it's because I've been doing
Mm.
it for like 9 years. You know,
9 years.
it took me
Yeah.
4 hours. Yeah, at the beginning, it took me
Yeah.
4 hours to do that. Now it
Yeah.
takes me 20 minutes. That's not because the work
Or
is
even a
easy.
day.
It's because,
Mm.
yeah, you know, yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the work is easy. It means that I've been
Yeah.
doing long enough, so long that, you know, I know my
Mm.
process when it comes to working. You know, I know
Yeah.
the workflow,
Mm.
I know this and that. So just get
Mm.
to that
Mm.
point where you trusted and you worked on the process for long enough
Mm.
that
Mm.
you never ever doubt your value and you won't let
Mm.
anybody, you know, discredit your
Mm.
value by being able to say that they can get a discount from you. Nah.
True. 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 No. No, I understand, man. I understand. But once again, man, like I've said to you, like this is something great to leave us with. I mean, it's actually something worth sharing. I'm glad that you actually brought it up. You know, so I just want to say also again, thank you so much, and we shall continue to live, with your advice, making sure that we trust the process as we go, as long as it can take and as hard as it can be. But the bottom line is that we trust the process. And I just want to say for that, thanks a lot. Hey, and I really wish you a lovely day further, and also a fantastic week that's coming, and hoping that you're enjoying your new job and that everything is going well, and that by the end of tomorrow, you have learned more than you thought you would have actually.
Yeah, precisely.
Uh,
That's the goal.
uh,
Yes. Thank
Definitely.
you.
All right, thanks, man. And we'll communicate further.
Yes, I see it on the
Mm,
bottom of the screen. My name is
mm.
there, so I'm not sure if the name will be there on the recording, but that's
Uh,
literally what the audience must just search for on LinkedIn and they'll find me.
all right, no problem. Now I'll put everything at the bottom of the screen. The LinkedIn account, like I've
All
been
right.
doing with the other videos. Like I'll just put
Okay.
everything down at the bottom of
All
the
right.
screen, and also your
All right.
name,
All right.
your
Great.
accounts and stuff. Yes. All right. Please do have yourself a
Yeah.
lovely
So
day.
I think, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, thanks. You too. Thank you.
Now you're saying something.
Cheers.
Sorry, you were saying
Oh
something.
no,
Sorry.
I was saying that
Uh,
I
mm,
was saying that look on LinkedIn it's very easy to post things and update this and update my bio, upload
mm,
certificates and stuff like that. I mean, if you want to
mm,
follow me and just see what I was saying about actually having a
mm.
life and
Yeah.
not just be a geek or a nerd, then
Yeah. Yeah.
you can find me on
Mm,
Instagram too. So I
yeah.
think my
Mm,
handle there is moraro.mush. Yeah. So I
mm,
think yeah, you can check that out. I'll send it to you as well. So there you can
mm,
actually see
mm,
okay, my trip here. You
mm,
know, this was myself learning about robotics here and there. Okay, this is
mm,
myself, you know,
mm,
rewarding myself for a tough week, you know, things like
mm,
that. You know, this is when I
mm,
met one of my mentors. We took a picture together.
mm.
So yeah, if
Yeah.
you want to see something more visual, I mean, I try to
Mm,
put as much information in the captions as possible.
mm,
But if you want to see something more visual, then also add me on Instagram. Like I said, it's
mm,
murado.mush. And yeah.
mm. Okay. Awesome. And you said something you said your Instagram account is muraro.mush. And then I just wanted to find out, like,
Yeah,
can you just maybe tell us?
murado.mush. Yeah.
Oh, okay, no problem. So I was just actually just asking you in terms of those, I mean, for those that are actually, listening instead of watching, So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, awesome. So other than that, thanks a lot once again. Like I said, I can never thank you enough.
Yeah, no problem. I can't wait to watch the podcast,
Mm,
to listen to the podcast.
uh,
You know, I'll also
mhm,
share the link on my LinkedIn,
mm,
and
mm,
you'll get more followers. I'll get more followers. That's the way the
yeah,
world works these
yeah.
days.
Yeah, they say you need to introduce your followers to me. I introduce my followers to you.
Exactly.
That's how it works. What do they call this again
Yeah.
in this pyramid scheme?
What is
What do
it?
they call it? They have a word for it. They call it like
Like,
um
I think I'm not sure about the whole pyramid scheme
mm,
thing, but I think
mm,
the whole
mm,
yeah, 7 degrees of separation thing also comes in
mm,
as well. You know,
yeah,
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 and like,
mm,
hey,
mm,
listen, I mean, a
mm,
quote you asked me about a quote earlier on.
mm,
Your network is your net worth. You
mm.
know, so
Yeah,
get on
true,
those
true.
networks,
Yeah,
get on those
yeah,
networks and increase your
mm,
worth in terms of
yeah,
knowledge, experience,
mm,
expertise,
mm,
secondary
mm,
information from
mm.
people and everything. Yeah. So yes,
And cell
your
phones, cell
network is
phones
your
are
net
also
worth.
sharing networks. Eh? I mean, network providers, they're also
Yeah.
sharing networks. So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, yeah, no, why
Yeah,
not? Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. So, we'll talk
All right
further.
then.
All right.
All
Enjoy
right,
your
we'll talk
day.
further.
And, all right. Thank you. All right.
You too.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye bye. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard and seen for yourself how amazing today's episode was. I mean, we had a chance to sit with Mulalo Mushaisano, who actually shared with us such valuable content. I'm talking about the content that is so much of information that helps us grow. I mean, that helps us learn the resources that we need to look out for, the kind of circle that we need to keep. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to get in touch with Mulalo Mushaisano, please do so at the details provided at the bottom of the screen. And in doing so, please remember to like and subscribe so you do not miss any episode from us. And in doing so, please remember to stay tuned for more episodes to come. We promise to bring you nothing but the best. And ladies and gentlemen, just want to ask you to keep safe and enjoy every day that you make it above the ground as you realize how much of a blessing they are.